Peace, 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 peace. Today I want to talk to you real quick about the alchemy of organizing. One of the things that I realized over, the last couple of years is that there's a certain alchemy that goes into organizing. And by alchemy, I mean that you are a chemist of sorts. You putting together different elements with a desired end outcome, right? And that desired end outcome is kind of like a perfect storm or perfect solution that will create, a better condition for, the people, for the community, for the planet, right? All at the same time. What I've been doing for the last 15 years is creating programs that were designed to elicit responses from the community. Happily Natural Day has been a cauldron of sorts where we would bring vendors, small businesses, musicians, performers, and educators, speakers, workshop facilitators, all into a room for the purpose of educating the masses, creating commerce scenarios with those in participation, also entertaining the masses or edutaining the masses through these ideas of holistic health, social change, cultural awareness, and identity, right? So, in alchemy, the idea is you take, various chemicals, minerals, and you're putting them together in order to change base metal like bronze, into gold, right? You want to change one element into, another element. So, the idea of alchemy is, related to chemistry, but on a deeper metaphysical level, it's also dealing with the internal alchemy, right? The change of the being of man into a higher perfected state, higher level of awareness, higher level of consciousness, and by consciousness, it's not just in terms of thought, it's also in terms of interaction with other beings, other humans, other people, our planet, so that there's a higher level of equilibrium in the system, or higher level of balance, optimal interactions with planet, with man, with animal plant life, so that we all have a continuous, optimal state of living, right? We're not just struggling, we're not just living to pay bills, we're not living in a situation where we can't breathe the air, we can't drink the water, where we're struggling, somebody's got less, somebody's got more, greed, and all that different type of stuff. So this idea of organizing as a form of alchemy, or the alchemy of organizing, is something that I've been thinking about, and it's manifesting through, the evolution of the work that we've been doing. Happily Natural Day as an entity was founded 15 years ago. It was founded on the idea that people of African ancestry have developed an inferiority complex as a result of living in and under the after effects of slavery and colonization, living in a white supremacist system, right? So a white supremacist system teaches that white people are on the top and every other ethnic group is on the bottom, right? And that's manifested through history, everything from, the genocide of the indigenous peoples of, the North American landmass to, the enslavement of African people, to the persecution of Pacific Islanders, and the colonization of their land masses, as in Hawaii, Samoa, those places, and realizing that, we live in substandard conditions as a result of those interactions, right? Even, our Asian Americans or Asian people interacting with white supremacy, a lot of their realities have been shaped as a result of, these the imperialistic nature of Western civilization. Okay, the idea that people of European ancestry are to be the leaders of the planet is, a historical perspective that we see played out, through Great Britain, England, Germany, Portugal, Spain, as they went out in the 1500s and colonized land masses. We look at the Berlin Conference that chopped up Africa or what have you. This idea has caused a lot of psychological pathologies for people of color, communities of color, and it manifests itself across the strata. For people of African ancestry, it looks like colorism, it looks like, dependency complexes, that's on a psychological level. On a sociological level, it just looks like wealth disparity. It looks like health disparity, right? It looks like housing disparity, land ownership disparity, things of that nature. So we created the festival, as an outlet, a liberation zone where people can come in and love themselves and identify with their African culture, whatever that might mean. There's so many different ways that plays out and manifests itself. But just being more in tune with who you are prior to incursion by, people of European ancestry. So the festival, has started to attract and has attracted people from all types of sectors, right? But one of the most dynamic sectors that has interfaced with Happily Natural Day has been, our agricultural community, right? Because we could talk about holistic health, and we can talk about identity, but if we're not talking about food and where food comes from in our natural environment and, the ecology, then we're missing a factor, right? A lot of times we get real political about organizing. We get very, metaphysical about, our own personal development, but we tend to forget that every moment of our day we interact with the ecosystem, we interact with nature. So pulling in the farmers into the conversation around Happily Natural Day also was a catalyst for our own work around urban farming, around urban agriculture, around local food production, around urban greening and beautification. And, simultaneously, it required us to shift our interaction with the work. It became something more than just a rhetorical, ideological conditioning, right? Reconditioning or recultivation. Like, the consciousness is a very important part and like the foundation for all action that we can take, right? Reclaim the mind and everything else will follow. But when we get stuck inside of a space where we're just dealing with the mind and the spirit, and we're not dealing with our built environment, we kind of lopsided in our development. So what better work for us to do than to reconnect with the planet through gardening, through horticulture, through agriculture, through permaculture, right? Because, that's people of African ancestry. We have a deep connection with the soil. We are agricultural people. Our festivals are centered around harvest. All indigenous people are connected to the planet. in a very, you know, intrinsic manner. You know, the creation of these cities, you know, are we call it, you know, migration from rural areas into the city, has had a lot of damaging effects on the way that we interact with one another, but it also has a lot of damaging effects as to how, you know, we interact with ourselves, right? We don't really think about where food comes from, right? We don't even really think about, you know, the quality of the air, right? The quality of the water, until it's a situation where, you know, one of these public municipalities, you know, is, you know, either complicit in some form of corrupt activity in the form of like Flint, or, you know, be like our pipes burst and, you know, we got to call a plumber. Then we thinking about the water, right? But, or we ain't pay our water bill and water's getting cut off. But, you know, every day, you know, without water, your body is, you know, affected. So, by connecting with the farmers, we were able to strike lightning and start dealing with food access, and how do we get healthy food into our community because of the disparity and lack of access by people of African ancestry and lower income and marginalized communities. The development of gardens and farms started to play a part and become an element in the system, right? And the refinement of the work, right? It's more than just, okay, I can go to this lecture, I can hear this guy talk, you know. It's more than I can, you know, I can wear this encore, I can throw on this dashiki, you know. It turns into another space. There's another spectrum of, okay, how do I transform the community in which I live so that that community is operating at its optimal for, you know, my self-sufficiency, right? And that community is, i.e., way more resilient than it was before, right? Because resiliency is not just in terms of like me and my family, we prepping and we got stuff in our backyard. It's the interconnectivity of human beings and people that are inside of your lived environment. Like, you might be self-sufficient, but what about your neighbor? And what about the person across the street? So, you know what I mean? Like, how do you all interact as a web of human beings? So, the development of the gardens and the farms started unfolding another layer of, you know, need in terms of our work, and that's the personal development, because we can't interact with one another with pathological behavior, right? We have to be at our optimal. That brings in the ethics question, like, what is the right way and poor way of having a healthy human interaction with your kinsmen, with your neighbors, with the people that are in your community? The garden started showing that, you know, these are places where we can learn or relearn or put into practice methods for healthy human interaction, right? Because I need to be able to rely on you, right? I need to be able to count on you, right? I need to be able to understand what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, right? I need to be able to understand what your value system is in order for us to work together, in order for us to develop this site, in order for it to be sustainable. Like, these are the elements that you have to take into consideration, because so it no longer becomes, well, you know, this guy, he has a whole bunch of information, right? Or this guy or this woman, you know, she's a healer and she's dynamic and she has all this technical information, she knows how to help you detox. It becomes, who is she as a person, and how does she interact with other individuals in the system, you know, and is that interaction healthy, right? So it starts getting into behavior, like, well, how do we identify, you know, what is healthy behavior, what isn't healthy behavior? So this is what, you know, I'm terming like the alchemy of organizing. You start to understand that there's different components to, you know, the work in order for it to be holistic. Now, if you're just trying to change a law, you know, then that's, in my opinion, short-sighted, because, you know, you can change the law, but it's human beings that require a law to even be in place, you know, and beyond human beings being necessary to have a law in place, you know, it is the heart of the human and the mind of the human that are, you know, interplaying with one another that, you know, cause certain behaviors to interact, that you have to have a law in order to, you know, address, you know, some form of injustice in the first place. So, you know, in order for us to get to the root causes of problems, we have to think like, what exactly is going on in the system that's causing people to, you know, be at each other's throats, you know, causing people to, you know, clash, you know, in these type of ways. And through our organizing work, you know, we can see, you know, there is a need for not only, you know, the creation of forums where we can, you know, speak and talk and learn from one another. There's also the need for practice, for interaction with the built environment, that we can learn from each other through our works, and then we can talk and learn and dialogue about that as well. So, you know, Huey Newton teaches that the people learn through observation and participation. Paulo Freire talks about the need for dialogue and practice, and those are essentially the same concepts. And then, you know, your organizing or in your work, you know, or in your alchemy, you know, that you know, are creating, it's like you're putting different people, or you're working with different people, different circumstances, right, different resources, you know, different skill sets, and you're putting these things into a cauldron, right? And inside of that cauldron, it's like, okay, well, this individual, you know, is bringing this and that and that, and that's creating a certain reaction, right? And that reaction, you know, for good or bad, you are the, you know, controller or the catalyst for it, because you're the one that's putting these things into the mix, right? Or taking them out of the mix as an organizer. So, you know, I guess it's a metaphysical work at the core of it, because we bring spirit into the space. You know, as our as individuals, we bring our heart into the mix, and, you know, we work through our own internal, you know, demons and, you know, and or angels, as we, you know, come forward to interact with other people, like letting stuff pass, you know, being compassionate and learning how to forgive, right? Understanding other people's pathology and being empathic to what other people are going through, you know, or being, you know, what do you call it, brash, and being blunt, straightforward, and not taking no bullshit from people when they come with the madness, right? So there's levels and variances and variances and gradients in how we interact, but it's all a part of the alchemy of organizing, right? It's beyond, you know, I'm just gonna, you know, throw Kwanzaa, and now, you know, me doing Kwanzaa, you know, and going to this event is where it's at, or me going to this lecture is where it's at, or I'm wearing this t-shirt. All of these things are a part of a system, but without the transformation of our built environment and the changing of our community, all of that is for naught. It's like, what are you doing? It's great, it looks good, it's very superficial. You know what I mean? It's very superficial, because we're not getting to the root of the problem. We live in places, right? And these places are, you know, influenced by government. They're influenced by day-to-day human interactions. They're influenced by policies, you know, businesses, nonprofit organizations, you know, social movements. Like, how are all these things interacting, and how are we interacting as people in order to shift, you know, the negative effects of the society, you know. So anyway, you know, just some thoughts on organizing as a form of alchemy for the evolution of, you know, our society. You know, I hope you get something from it. I'm thinking that this may be something, you know, that will be an ongoing thought as we, you know, work towards a higher level of refinement in the right interactions. But my prayer is that as we do work in our communities, you know, we get into the mindset of understanding that it's not just about, you know, people talking. It's not just about reading books. It's not just about putting on, whatever you're going to wear. And it's not just about looking the part. It's about how do we transform our built environment, where we live, the buildings, the parks, the streetways. How do we be a part of that work so that we can look and see that, we have more than just the capacity to talk. We have the ability to change our reality. All right? Well,